Well, greetings everybody and welcome to Calizari System Survival. This is episode 18, and as you may have heard right at the very beginning there, our gutlings were once again defending us from that inevitable meteor shower, meteor storm that just decided to occur as I loaded into the game. But once again, they were very successful in eliminating the meteors before they hit the ground, so we didn't have to worry about them hitting anything. Alright, now what are we going to get up to today? Well, if you recall last episode, we upgraded our uranium mine over there. Our mining rig over there needed an upgrade, so we actually got to and upgraded that. So I figured first up what we'll do is we'll check our magnesium rig over here and see if that needs upgrading, and if it does, we'll of course upgrade that, and it's actually looking mighty close to it. Now if you recall, we actually use our piston on a very slow push, and yes, we need upgrading. But if you have a look at the slow push, it's very slow. But that said, you notice that it actually hasn't taken very long before this rig has reached its maximum and needs to be upgraded. So even that slow push, it doesn't take very long at all before it has actually reached its maximum extension, and it needs a reconfiguration. So whilst initially it may have seemed, well, that's going to take forever, you know, what's the point of that, it's too slow. Reality is it's not. It gives you ample time to be able to do things, and then you can come back and rebuild the whole drilling head of this rig, which, as you saw last episode with our uranium rig, it actually is not that difficult and doesn't take all that long to actually reconfigure it. So whilst it may seem as if this sort of a mining rig is going to take a long time to actually produce anything, especially when you've got to go through like, what, 30 meters of stone to get to your resources, truthfully it actually doesn't take all that long at all. There's plenty of other things to keep ourselves occupied in the meantime, and then if you periodically check back, before very long you find, hey look, I need to reconfigure this and upgrade it, and yeah, one or two upgrades and all of a sudden you're producing millions of kilograms of raw resource, which I've been thinking about how we're going to actually transport such large quantities of resources, and I'm thinking we're going to have to make a dedicated resource carrier basically for these rigs. Now I will admit I have actually done this previously in another game, where I actually came up with and designed this particular basic mining platform. I can't take full credit for it. I guess I was very much inspired by things that I'd seen on the workshop and videos I'd watched. Nothing specifically like this, but this sort of thing. And I faced the same problem. How am I going to transport millions of kilograms worth of ores easily? 3, 4, and I did come up with, it's a large grid ship, but that's because I need to be able to utilize a large cargo container, because that is the best one to transport these sorts of quantities of ore, because I know that they will actually handle it. It's medium cargo containers that you put on a small grid. They don't really have the sort of capacity necessary for millions of kilograms of ore. A few 100,000 maybe, but not millions. In fact, if I remember correctly, a medium cargo container set on, I think this is by default set on 10 times inventory, I think. Even then I think total is only like 30,000 or something or other. And with the 3 cargo containers that has got, it means it gives us a total of about 90,000 kilograms of ore that we can transport at any one time when we're not transporting anything else. Really not adequate for the production level of this type of platform. So I think we'll probably have to build a a dedicated transport arrangement. And I say arrangement because I've got some thoughts on that. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with a ship in this case, because even a conveyor won't hold millions of kilograms. And I know once this rig gets down to its ore layer, that it will actually generate millions of kilograms of resources, and I'd like to transport them all at once. I don't want to do multiple trips back and forwards, but definitely good suggestions. Conveyors are really good for those sorts of things as well. And whilst for this particular rig I could probably run a conveyor over there, take a bit, but I could do it. Our uranium over there and our ice way over, 18 kilometres away, little bit difficult to actually run conveyors that sort of a distance. And now you need that. Now, anybody who's familiar with the Dune movies or books, I prefer the books myself, will be familiar with the type of arrangement I use. I even call it a carry-all. It's but it uses large atmospherics, 4 large atmospherics on the actual lifter. I use a connector block to connect it to the top of. It's just basically a coking container with a connector on the side of it, and that way I can actually just come along, slide in there, transfer stuff across, and I don't have to keep it as an intact single ship. I can drop the container and put the ship elsewhere. Joinable. I'm really not sure how you mean joinable. I mean, this rig is close enough, like it's only 300 meters. I could probably run conveyors or join connectors over to it. But yeah, a ship is going to be my best bet, I think. Did I actually work that up? I did. Getting myself distracted here. Look at that. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, unfortunately, this is just an offline game. It's basically I'm streaming just a single player, survival game. Just no particular reason other than I actually just prefer playing single player. I don't generally play online. Do appreciate the offer, but unfortunately, no, it's not. Just bored. That's alright. We all get that way, I'm sure. No, I know a lot of people play online, and kudos to them. There's a lot to be said for online game. I'm one of these rare, strange sort of people. Shit, I'm out of internal plating. That actually prefers to play single player. I don't really play cooperative or any form of multiplayer games as a general rule. I can't even give you any particular reason why that is. Just my preferred mode of gameplay, I guess. There is an exception to that. I am also a Star Citizen. I do play Star Citizen on occasion. That's so far, I think that's probably the closest I've actually come to any form of multiplayer game. Yeah. Look, I will concede that in the past, come on, stall out. I used to play a lot of StarCraft, and I did actually enjoy playing cooperative with Battle.net. That is the only thing I've ever played in a cooperative fashion or an online fashion. Aside from, as I just mentioned, Star Citizen, which is the thing I'm waiting for them to actually hurry up and finish. Although I know I've got a couple of years to wait still for that. It's going to be good though. I've been a fan of Chris Roberts and his games for many years. Privateer is actually one of my favourite all-time games. In fact, even today I play that game, run it under DOSBox, and it runs a wee bit fast because of the newer technology, but it is a lot of fun. What the hell am I looking for here? Those. Oh, okay, yes. This is a mining rig. Oh, a large tube, okay. I am using a rotor attached to a piston, and then I actually will build some... Oh, I'm running out of space. Okay, let's just clear us a bit of space here. Get us some bloody small tubes, if you pardon that. What have I filled myself up with? That. There, that might work better. Yes, the rotor. Okay. Oh, bloody hell. In fact, I'm not going to apologise for the language. To hell with it. Welcome, Assenbergers. Welcome back. I'm just trying to reconfigure our magnesium mining rig here, but I'm getting myself very confused and I keep not picking up adequate resources. I have a confession to make. I have been drinking a little bit this afternoon. I had to work this morning, so I've been relaxing this afternoon. Construction components. I'm not as exactly thinking 100%ly. Okay, as for the other question about the rotor, yes, this now, and I think I do have the materials for this, this now has a drill head arrangement stuck to the back end of it, and as a result with the rotor rotates the drills, the piston pushes the whole rig down, so we drill down 10 metres by a good 25 metre radius circular area. It's actually become pretty much a standard sort of drill rig that I use on most of my survival games. Believe it or not, it's very lightweight resource wise to actually set up. The drills actually are probably the highest resource object in this whole rig, and once set up, the reconfiguring of it is only a few conveyor tubes is the resources necessary for the reconfigure, because we reuse the materials from dismantling the drill head to rebuild it later on. Oh shit, that one. Thank you. Yeah, they do run out pretty quick, but most of the resources are a larger sort of area. They might not be very thick, they might be in sort of narrow band, but they are sort of a larger area, and this lets me basically catch the entire vein almost in one hit. So it can run out quick, yes, but you also collect them very quickly. So you can go from having not very many resources to having an abundance. Granted, it puts a damn heavy strain on your refineries, because they then have to spend the next however long actually turning it into usable ingots. That said, once it starts refining, you seem to have ingots coming out your proverbial for a long time to come. And so far, using this sort of a rig, I haven't actually run out of resources. I've always seemed to have had an abundance of the resources as I've gone along. and I've been able to pretty much reach a point where I can just build anything, which is great. Iron being the main one, of course, and as we know, we use iron for pretty much every construct that we make. And whilst I don't actually have an iron rig in at this stage, if you recall, I think, is it this one or no? I think it was the ice, wasn't it? It sort of had iron as well. So we're looking at picking up quite a bit there as well. Okay. This one. That'll do. All the extra stone. That is what this side here is for. Our conveyor sorter and our connector, which I'm using as an ejector. The sorter is actually configured to whitelist stone. Simply whitelist stone on a drain ore, and then the connector is utilised just as simply as a throw out. So I'm making use of the 56 item limit that the game imposes by default, and I'm simply just shooting it all down the hole there and letting the game clean it up. So that's what I do with the excess stone. I find it's quite a useful little way of getting rid of it. Small tubes and computers, okay. Let's get rid of them. That hopefully is enough. Oh yeah, look, don't get me wrong, Alafale, I actually do, I hope I pronounced that right, I do actually utilise stone. I initially, on the very first rig I set up, I don't turn that on. I leave that set turned off and disabled. That's because, you're right, stone is useful. You need stone to turn it into gravel, and you need gravel to make reactor components. But once I've got a surplus of reactor components, stone after that point becomes redundant. And you've got so much of that resource that I find it's just much more convenient to eject it out the side, get rid of it. If I ever need more stone, I'll just go and turn that conveyor sorter off. It will accumulate here in the container, and then I can go and refine it and turn it into gravel, and I'm good to go from there. But by default, yeah, I eject it because it's just there is just an overabundance of stone, of course, on planets, and you only need a little bit of it. I agree, Assenburgers. That would be really, really cool if you could if that sort of a filter was put onto the actual drills themselves. So if you say, disallow stone, for example, as what you're saying, then it was as if you'd actually right-clicked on the stone. It just eliminates it, and just drills and actually sucks up, collects whatever, anything else that's not on that list. Maybe they'll add it down the track. Maybe we could suggest it. I don't know. But at this point in time, a simple conveyor sorter with a connector used as an ejector off the side seems to work quite nicely. At least it spits it all out. In fact, you'll be able to see it in action shortly. We will just jump in here. We need to just do some basic reconfiguring of this. Yes, this is going to actually start it rotating, but that doesn't really matter. Come on, hurry up and do your thing. There we go. We'll turn you on and start pushing down again. And I'm just about to break my drills. I forgot to no, back up. Well, we've still got drills intact. Obviously didn't break them. That's pretty surprising, actually. Yes, I have been drinking. 0.0025. Very small increment. Thank you very much. Start again. Oh, okay, look at that. We drilled a really nice nice slot in the bottom of our hole. Okay, but yeah, see, that's just ejecting a stone down the hole. The game then cleans up the excess over 56 items, 56 blocks, whatever they call it. So I just let it sit there and take care of itself. So, okay, that's that reconfigured. Nice little hole there. Yeah. Somewhere here, there is our base. LFR, yes. If especially on a ship at least, if you set up the drill as a tool as opposed to just adding it to your toolbar as an on-off, it's exactly the same as your actual personal tool here on your character, number 3 here, where you left-click drills and pulls out resource, right-click just simply eliminates. So on a ship, if you've got drills on the ship and you set up those drills as a tool, so you have to use your left and right mouse button to actually activate them. Yes, right mouse button will actually just eliminate everything, rather than actually collecting resources, just like it does with your actual personal tool here. So that's a really nice feature that a lot of people aren't aware of. Yeah, I was one of those people that most of the time, I don't actually have a drill ship here, but you can see it. Actually, you can see the same sort of concept with this. We've got it set up here as a tool, switch to weapon grinder, and left mouse button turns the grinder on. In this case it doesn't, but if you do that with a drill, right mouse button turns the drills on, but they actually just eliminate material. They don't actually collect any sort of resources. Okay, so that's that. That's really good. I could have ground. No, I won't ground them down just yet. So I could have done, but I didn't. Okay. No, it would be nice if you could do that on an actual ground-based rig, yes, so that it automatically. So it'd be nice to be able to, as Assenberger said, it'd be nice to be able to put like a sort of setting in the drill to say, don't mine this particular product, and it would do that sort of thing to it when it came across it. That'd be great. It'd make things easier for us, and we wouldn't have to handle them. But so I don't know that it's actually going to happen. But it's a nice concept, definitely. Yeah, I use ejectors on ships a lot, Assenberger. I do the same sort of arrangement on a small ship. I actually have it set up with a small sorter and ejectors, and I just eject the stone as I'm actually drilling and mining. I've got several different variations of mining ships that do that. Yeah, it throws lots of stones out, and sometimes you have to be careful. You can actually drive into your own stones, but it works really quite well. Feels like a dragster, yeah. Alright, well, thanks for dropping by, and yeah, enjoy your game. No, yeah, if you go for it, Asperger, that's fine. Although I think Twitch eliminates links. Yeah, it deletes links. I don't know whether... Can I actually change that? I will admit I'm not sure whether I can actually change that. Unless you change the link. Leave the HTTP off it and just put in the rest of it after that and see if it will go through. It's actually a bit difficult for me to get to settings for Twitch whilst I've actually got my game up and running. I didn't like that either. Oh, am I? Okay, well, just bear with me, I'm actually not paying attention to the game at the moment, so it'll just sit there idle. Let me just have a look at this. I thought I had whispers turned on. Settings. Dun, dun, dun. Ah, okay. Alright, that should actually have fixed the whisper problem there, Asperger's. Oh, okay, yep. I gotcha. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's loading something. Interesting. That's quite a long looking ship there, isn't it? And you've got the cockpit right at the back there, haven't you? I'll admit I built a mining ship yesterday as well, actually, but it's a large grid ship, and it's got a, what is it, 6x5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6x5 drill head on it. Oh, that's not bad. That looks pretty nice, actually. Got a lot of lights, so you can certainly well illuminating the work face. Yeah, it's a large ship large grid ship that I actually built, mining ship that I built. It's actually a remote ship, believe it or not, for a space-based platform that I am working on. Yeah, it's got a 6x5 drill head, minus one drill, the centre one. I've actually got a camera sitting right in the middle. It's all remote controlled. I actually run it from a remote console. No, different ship altogether. It's a different arrangement. I've got a couple of different worlds that I use just for ship development. I call them Caledon shipyards. I've got a military version. I've got a standard, what I call a civilian version, and then actually the planet that I showed off last night was actually the planet-side creations. The one, the main civilian shipyards is gotten so full, it's got so many ships in it, none of which are actually on the workshop. They're just various different designs I've used for various different games, and other concepts and ideas I've played with, like gravity drives, gravity cannons, gravity cannon ships, dual barrel gravity cannon ships, that sort of thing. I figured I'd start a new empty world and build a new platform for that sort of stuff, for just building and playing with different concepts and ideas. And I got carried away. I ended up building a full refining base and built this mining ship, this large grid mining ship. Even though normally I build these shipyards in creative mode, I've actually fully set it up as survival ready. I don't know actually why I actually did that, but I made it fully survival ready. So, I mean, maybe I'll end up turning it into a survival start world or something. I don't know. Yeah, if you're referring to the beginner's guide ships, the little ones there, it's just a 4-drill ship that I came up with some time ago. It's actually a very bad design ship for mining, but it worked just to demonstrate various concepts in that beginner's guide that I do after this normal stream. So nice. Big block ship. Which big block diff ship do I show? If you're referring to the one I'm standing on, which I think you probably are, actually. No, this one is... I'm designing this. It was going to be just like almost like a space runabout, something to flip up to space and quickly, with the jump drive there, quickly be able to scout to the other planets. I've decided I'm actually going to redesign it. I'm going to make it an atmospheric cockpit, not just an open cockpit. I'm actually going to get rid of this monstrosity of an engine on top here and reconfigure that. I mean, I've got the hydrogen thruster at the back, and I'm going to put a single refinery. That said, it's only going to have some small containers and stuff. So basically turn it into almost a starter ship, so that I can get out there, but I can also jump engine to some of the other planets quickly. Something I started playing with, and I've gotten distracted actually setting up our mining platforms because we need the resources. But yeah, I have decided to reconfigure this. We're going to put a full atmospheric cockpit on here. I don't fancy having to go to space with just carrying oxygen tanks, and I'm going to put a refinery on it. And I'm thinking also of adding a second hydrogen tank to it, just so that we've got the relevant power in our thruster. But I want to make it something that can come down and land on a planetary body, but I don't have enough platinum for thrusters, I don't think, because they've only been... Platinum I've got here has only been salvaged from those pirate bases, and I've got a little bit, and from those asteroids when they actually hit the ground. But that is going to be our next major work, basically working on that and finishing that off. No, that's right, I was going to put a large cargo container there and a large cargo container over here. These engines, atmospherics, they're forward facing, so they're braking engines. That's why we've got the large thruster up there, but I could actually throw just small thrusters down here in the reverse to those, and that way our large cargo containers here on each side are nice and protected and not at risk of getting burned off. Yeah, I have to admit, I do have a few worlds that I use as small mod pack as well. It is quite nice to be able to utilise some of these large grid items on a small grid. Very nice. Yeah, no, actually, no, that's good. Looks like actually it's going to work quite nice as a mining rig. I mentioned also, I guess, in the beginner's guide that I do after this. I also do mess around with scripts a little bit as well, and I've been working on an auto miner script, and I mean a fully autonomous miner, something that you just point at an asteroid and just let it go, and it very organically mines. And to date it works reasonably well. There are some edge conditions where it actually the script actually falls apart, but it makes use of a camera and ray tracing to actually determine distance and location. And the camera, it looks like a little... It does look like a robot, because the camera at the front actually does a sweep back and forwards until it locks onto its target, and then it does a very narrow sweep on the target whilst it turns the whole ship to target. So I might highlight that at some stage. Oh, okay. So what, you're utilising some obsolete API functions, or that the functions would be going to be made obsolete? Because, you know, a base management, I think, is never obsolete. Ah, detailed info. Oh, okay. They say that's basically obsolete? Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's the same way I was pulling range information off ray tracing off the camera. It was using detailed info to be able to pull the info back. Oh, okay. Yeah, I need to take a closer look at the API again, I think, because there has been quite a lot of changes with the recent updates, especially when they changed over to over to 1.180. Was that the one they changed to multi-threaded physics and all that sort of stuff? I know there was a lot of changes to the API from that point, so I have to admit it's been a while since I've actually looked at my mining stuff. It had some deficiencies that the API wasn't just letting me fill in, so hence why I sort of, it's all been installed there. I actually went on and I've been building resource link. Okay. Oh, okay. Better than a regular expression. That's good. Resource sync. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm sitting a meter or so from this screen. I should have had a closer look. Resource sync. Yeah, fair enough. Oh, my engines are not on. How's that? It's one drawback about turning the engines off all the time. Yeah, no, I've actually been building a modular station system. At the moment I think there's 9 or 10 modules. Slow down. I will fairly admit that I got inspired by seeing Sage Station, that monolithic circular pillar type arrangement, but this is a fully modular thing with, it's got a command module, it's got a refinery module, it's got an assembler module, and you can just plug and play them any which way you like, basically out of your blueprints here, and this is all of them here. I do actually plan on releasing that onto the workshop at some stage. It'll be a whole world with just the components in it, with a couple of pre-assembled just to highlight it. I found that actually allowed me to find out that the floor plan script, whilst it's very good, does put a lot of pressure on a system to the point where it can get very, very jerky and it's like this. It's just constantly surging. But the script can be used just to map the base, and then you turn it off and it gives you a nice visual display of the base, so it works really well. Oh, restarting. Yeah, I was going to say it's not good having to restart, but I find sometimes it's actually better to do a restart. In fact, a lot of my code projects, they start out one way and I end up rewriting them like 3 or 4 times over, and before I get to a final form that I'm happy with. But yeah, you learn along the way, the first iteration, so the next iteration it's a little bit cleaner or it's a little bit more efficient or stuff like that, and so by the time you get to a final iteration of it, you find that it's very highly optimized. You've already pre-prototyped some concepts and come up with more elegant solutions, so rewriting can actually be quite advantageous in a lot of respects. Oh, okay, I'm going to have to look into that because that's different to how I've been doing things. I hadn't actually, like I said, I've had my stuff on the back burner, so I have. But Masters is actually, in a lot of respects, the way he's written it, it's turned it into a very obfuscated piece of code. It's very difficult to actually see what he's doing half the time. But whatever he's doing is damn magical. It seems to do some pretty nice stuff. This base here does make use of it as well. you don't see it most often because I've actually got it set up in the control room, and I don't often take the character up into the control room. But yeah, it is certainly there. He does a lot of translation of strings, and it seems to be very encoded or obfuscated, but it's still pretty neat. Okay, time to slow down again. Now we're going to have an absolute truckload of ice on this particular platform. And it almost needs reconfiguring by the looks. Excellent. Right, that one there, thank you. But that's still only 1/4 of the actual capacity of this cargo container. So 3 million ice, and it's only 1/4 of the capacity. So that's doing pretty good. And that looks like it actually does need reconfiguring. Darn it. Alright. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people do that. I'm a firm proponent of open source myself. A lot of my stuff is actually open source, or I make open source. But I do understand people's desire to not have their code stolen or utilized or reused. I've come across many cases of code being obfuscated, and I just couldn't be bothered taking the time to actually decode it and read it. So it does the job. That was what's important. Oh, darn it. I was just going to start reconfiguring this, but unfortunately I don't have the hydrogen to do so. I just checked my 26% hydrogen is not quite enough to do a full reconfiguration here, so I'm going to have to scoot back and recharge my hydrogen tanks and then come back. But that's alright. We'll just let this base here take care of itself. I mean, I call it a base, it's a mining base, I suppose. Mining platform. Don't know what term to use for it. Yeah. I used to be big in the IRC community years back, and I actually wrote a framework that allowed other people to write clients, bots, that sort of jazz. Had it up on SourceForge for a while actually. And it was just all open source, basically. Yeah, I wrote it as a labour of love. It was something I wanted to do. I wanted to get deep into the RFC for the protocol and write a client framework that utilised the protocol that everybody could plug into. And then I threw it up on SourceForge and said, hey, go for it. And I believe it was actually utilised by a couple of different developers, but as long as I was given credit, I don't care. I'm very much, very much into open source, believer of open source. The more open the better, because I find a lot of open source products are far superior to all the closed source stuff and proprietary stuff that the big companies tend to bring out. Linux is a very good example of that. And all the applications that are part of that, far superior to Windows, far superior to all the applications on Windows. However, Windows does have the market share as a general rule, and in order to operate in this world you need to be able to utilise Windows, or have Windows on a system at least. I used to run Linux solely dedicated for many years, until I became a system administrator for a Windows based network, so kind of had to change my whole rig and whole platform here over to something that was compatible with my job, which was a bit of a pain in the butt. Fortunately, I don't do that anymore. I just haven't bothered changing it back over because all of my games are set up under a Windows environment, and I don't feel like going to all the trouble of trying to get the Linux versions of them and reconfigure them and all that sort of jazz. So no, I don't want to. I want to jump out of it. There we go. I actually used Linux entirely for about 5 years. Just dedicated. I did not have Windows on any PCs in my house, but I was working for an internet service provider, and all their main infrastructure was all Linux based. We were dealing with Windows clients, but the actual main servers were all Linux based, and it worked well for my environment and for my job. But then I changed and became administrator for a Windows based network, and of course I had to throw all that out and start over. I used to run Linux in a virtual environment for a while, and even that, it just got too difficult to keep flipping back and forwards between the two, so I bit the bullet and went to the dark side and changed over to just running Windows only. But most of your best games out there are actually designed for Windows primarily, and are just ported to Linux later. So this little gunslinger, yeah, I'm really wrapped with the way this particular ship turned out. I got the inspiration from the Easy Start fighter ship in some respects, in the long nose type arrangement and the guns at the front, but I was not happy with the minimal amount of guns that it had. So as you see, this has got 6 Gatlings on the front as well as 2 missile launchers with a Gatling sitting actually between them. It gives it immense firepower, and all the big atmospheric thrusters look like wings, make it look like it's got an atmospheric capability. So yeah, I was very pleased with the way this one turned out. I have been tempted to throw it up on the workshop. I actually don't know why I haven't, to be perfectly honest, because it is a nice basic little fighter. It does come equipped with an ore detector as well, so it can be used as a nicely armed scout. And yeah, it could. It wouldn't take much to rip those off the front there and stick some mining, some drills on the front there. It could be turned into a miner. It could be reconfigured for a welder, a miner, or a grinder quite easily. And that was not very smart, was it? What on earth? What have we damaged? Anything? Oh, hang on. No, we haven't damaged anything, believe it or not. Because I've actually got destructible blocks turned off. But I still have no idea why that would have done that. Because I had well and truly enough altitude, I thought. Yeah, I was quite surprised by that. It should not have actually done that. But neither here nor there. Like I said, yes, I was dropping at like 60 meters a second, which it should not have been doing considering the altitude I had to start with. And I was angling up as a braking maneuver. So, yeah. In this case, I'm happy the fact that I actually have destructible blocks turned off. Didn't particularly want to have to rebuild the damn thing. Speaking of which, though, where are we? Gunslinger. Yeah, what the heck. If it will do it. Sometimes this doesn't want to work properly. There we go. Okay, as you can see, author is Calidan, C-A-L-I-D-A-N. You can find me under Steam Workshop by that name. If you're interested, by all means, feel free to subscribe to that. Use it however you like. Reconfigure it, whatever. What the heck. It's about time I actually started doing throwing some of my creations out there so that other people can enjoy them as well, rather than just me enjoying them. And as you saw with the worlds that I was showing off last night, and I will admit I got very sidetracked with showing off what I had there, considering I actually only went over to those worlds to show off the use of rotors and pistons in a sort of a real game scenario, and got distracted by actually showing off the actual creations themselves. But that said, I did actually create them with the intent to throw them on the workshop at some stage, so I actually, based on the questions I got last night in regards to that big white pyramid, the one that opens with the solar panels, I actually went in and I actually removed all the mods, the speed mod and, well, the other one's just a no bloom on LCD screens, so it doesn't glare you. But I removed both of those and then I took it into orbit and back again. So whilst it weighs 13,000 tons, so 13 million kilograms or something or other, yes, it will go to orbit at the base 100 meters per second, and it will come back down. Although granted, coming back down from orbit, you're running on vapor in your hydrogen tanks at the end of it. It's quite astounding. Even in a creative game, I got down to 1% left in my hydrogen tanks by the time I settled it on its pad. So it can go to orbit, yes, but only just. Yeah, I think you did, but hey, I was quite willing to be sidetracked, let me put it that way. I do like showing off the stuff that I've created, especially if people express an interest in it. I'm not saying I think I've got great stuff, but if people want to know about it, I'll certainly show it off. I'm an experimenter, very much an experimenter. I like trying different things, different configurations of things. If they work, they work. If they don't, they get sidelined. I go on to something else. Hence why I've got 3 different worlds of creations that I've only put like 2 or 3 items, well now 4 items on the workshop. But I've got, well, you saw my blueprint list briefly. It's huge, and they're all mostly, a lot of those things are actually my own various iterations and versions. There we go. We need that. Oh, not enough. Keep forgetting that 10 of each is not enough for that. Yes, I have actually been designing and planning a fully mobile version of this base that can be done exactly that. Like I mentioned before, I've got this large grid lifter platform I call a carry-all, based on Dune, yes, I will admit it, with a connector underneath it, and it certainly is a heavy lifting beast. It can lift a lot because it uses 4 large great, there we go, 4 large atmospheric thrusters, which in themselves can actually lift quite a fair bit. So I have been working on a component-based version of this whole platform that can be lifted, moved to a new location, locked down into place with, say, landing gear on the struts, so it locks down to the ground. Still have the reconfiguring issue. This what I'm doing right now, but the underlying concept could work quite nicely, I think. Yes, there we go. Yeah, basically a mining rig you can just dump down somewhere and start mining this large area. It'll work right. Nice, actually, I think. But yeah, it didn't need all of them. Far out. That's not what I wanted anyway. Okay, I'm a little bit lower on them than I'd like. I've thought of that as well, using pistons, but some locations, the product or the resource you're going after can be 30 or 40 or 50 meters down, and that would need multiple pistons to do it any sort of justice. That said, and I'll just quickly do this, if you look there, the whole rig, this whole design fits to this size hole, to the point of you've got a half block into the wall, half block in out, so it makes it really useful later. If I could use that some way in the design of the structure so it could actually work its way down. Hey, there's a thought. Combination of both. Yeah, there's a thought indeed. Use some welders that could actually weld its own struts as it goes down and actually, in essence, walk its way down into the hole as the rig actually works down. I'm going to have to give that one some thought. Can use thrusters. I've actually built a welding rig that actually goes skyward, but maybe a welding rig that automatically walks its way down, potentially utilizing blueprints and welders for the outer struts, and use thrusters for stability as it slowly works its way downwards. That's... Okay, you got me thinking now. I've got some interesting concepts springing up in mind at the moment. Maybe I'm going to have to play around with that. Something you can just dump down on a location and it will just literally just work its way down to whatever length you need or depth you need with a mining head. And then yeah, a detachable cargo, so you can come along and just unattach it, take it, empty it, bring it back, or swap it out with an empty one or something to that effect. So interesting. Yeah, that's some good ideas there actually. I might have to play around with some of those concepts I'm thinking. I want those and those. No, this is the one I'm missing. And we stall again. Come on, there we go. Yes, this mining platform is definitely a work in progress. This is the basic form, but I have been in other worlds, been playing around with more mobile versions of these, so we'll see what takes shape over time. Oh, interior plates. I mean, if I could design something that required me not to have to grind off the whole drill arrangement and rebuild it each time, so it would say, certainly, no. Thank you. It would certainly would save a lot of time there. Well, that's a thought. So it actually drilled its own way down. It's an interesting thought. But I mean, as I said, I've actually already built, I have built a structure. It's like a sky elevator, and I was inspired by it. I didn't come up with the concept myself, of course. Utilises blueprints and a welding platform that uses atmospheric and hydrogen thrusters to actually work its way up its own central core as it welds it up. So I'm thinking maybe the same sort of concept could work here, but for going downwards, using the stability of the engines and gyroscopes to track down, and then a blueprint so it actually welds up its own superstructure as it's extending down. I'm going to have to give it some thought. Anyway, for now I'm going to have to stop this stream here. That's our survival stream for today. We will pick up the reconfiguring of this tomorrow. As you know, I do have that beginner's guide, which I do in about half an hour's time. And if I don't get too distracted, or it might, it's probably going to start changing from being just a beginner's guide, because I think I've covered pretty much the beginner aspects of this game for any person who's interested, at least. But for now, still a couple of things that I can cover, I think. So, I mean, you're welcome to drop back in about half an hour's time. We can continue chatting. If not, I'll catch you next time. But for now, happy engineering. And that's it for our Calizari System Survival episode for today.